But the program today is going to be the first. We're going to have several like this based on this particular book. Lou Adler is a recruiter, a former recruiter, and a guru of the hiring process. And he normally trains recruiters on how to hire good people, how to make those decisions that get the most talented people who can do the job on board. And he's just published a book, which I thought was what I was hoping would come in, by today, but it didn't. So I'm going to be giving some of these away as a door prize, but he's got a book that's for not only recruiters on how to hire people, but also on the job seeker, how to make this happen, how to understand what the recruiters are looking for, how to adapt your presentation so that you can be the one that's chosen. What do they look for? And he talks a lot about the mistakes. So often recruiters have a little checkbox of we need, this degree and this, 10 years experience and so forth, instead of crafting the job description based on what you would actually be doing in the job. And that those are the intelligent job descriptions. And so, at any rate, he does make a distinction as to whether you are looking just for a job, and sometimes when you're desperate, when you've been unemployed for a long time, you don't really care, your career plan has gone out the window, and you really are just looking for some kind of an income to pay the bills. But we would hope that every one of you would have, at some point in your life, made a career plan. Something that, I want to get eventually, by the time I'm this age, I want to be here. I want to be at this level. I want to be in this position. I want to be doing these things. And we had years and years ago, we had an individual who made a presentation, and it was so interesting. He had worked at Dell for a very long time, and he said when he got laid off, he did an examination, thought back to the early years when he really did have a career plan, and he said, I took a job just because it paid so much money that I just felt I couldn't turn it down. But it really was not in keeping with my career plan. I never did like it. I wasn't particularly good at it. And so now, he said, I ask myself every time I'm going to make a decision, is this going to get me closer to my goal, or is this going to get me further away from my goal? And even sometimes a volunteer job, even a temp job, even a survival job, you can still ask that question. Is it in some way, is this going to get me closer or further away? And the Davila story that I told you about, the guy that got the job at GM, that whole portfolio thing that he now is doing as a job, that was something he did for a nonprofit just to help somebody out. Oh, and there was another part of his story that I forgot to tell you. But he did that little portfolio job was for a nonprofit. He had a gap in his work history. And the guy did ask him about that. What were you doing for these 14 months? And he said, that was, I was helping out a friend. I wasn't working at the time, and he had written a book. And he said, I know you have some expertise in this area, and I wonder if you would proofread, copy edit my book. And so it had to do, not only was he helping somebody out, it had to do with his job. It was something very related that he could put on a resume, and it was another piece of information that the GM guy was really interested in. It was a level of expertise that he liked. So there's, every little thing that you do can help to qualify you, and you can make that distinction. So what is the difference between a job and a career? Victoria?
So for me, a career is something that is meaningful, and you get to do your passion, and it makes a difference, and you love it, and you are excited to go and participate in it every day. And for me, a job is exactly the opposite of that. It is just a job that you do because you have to make money. So jobs and careers for me are not the same thing. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have something they'd like to add? What's the difference between a job and a career? Okay. Nancy?
Okay, it's not the difference, but I've read that today's college graduates in their lifetime will have 7 different careers, not jobs, but careers. A lot of us that have been in the workforce for a long time, a lot of careers used to exist, no longer exist, and there are careers out there that we possibly could have dreamed of. So,
Okay, so what she said was she read somewhere that college graduates today will have 7 different careers, not jobs, but careers, which is the big daddy, the umbrella. You can have multiple jobs within those careers, but that they will have 7 different careers as technology changes and different careers come and go. John?
Career is something that you would progress in over, in most cases, your entire working life, and you plan, you make progress. To me, a job is something you just land. You
Okay.
qualify, you land, doesn't fit in the plan, it isn't necessarily progress.
Okay, a career, he said, is an extended over an extended time period, over your entire working life, perhaps, and it is planned, and you progress throughout that career, whether laterally or vertically or whatever, you progress throughout that career. Whereas a job is something that you land, it might last a long time, and you would hope that it would be part of that career plan, but it is not necessarily that way. Okay, I guess everybody's got a pretty good idea for that. So what is important to you? And let me just kind of fill you in on this stuff. There's extrinsic, which is the things that are outside of you, and intrinsic. So Victoria has her whole life, she has longed for the intrinsic reward of a job, and that's what she's going after now. It's the passion, it's something that's meaningful, sort of internally. So we've got extrinsic on the outside, and the top, I know this is hard to read, so in the top left quadrant, that includes compensation. This is stuff that's good for like the day. Money, how much are they going to pay me? How convenient is it? What big old fat job title am I going to have? Maybe the company status. I'm going to get to work for this important, prestigious company. So there's a status thing, the benefits, the corner office, all of that stuff. And so often when a person talks to a recruiter, the first thing they ask is about that left quadrant. Before we get started on what the job is, how much does it pay? And so you're looking for the short-term, kill the pain information that's going to be good for one day. And then the long-term is more you learn, you do, you become, you grow, you have passion, you believe in the mission, you're cause-driven, that sort of thing. It's the intrinsic stuff. And you'll take a lower salary in order to work for the things where you're intrinsically motivated. And so there are lots of people that work for nonprofits who fall in that category. They believe that the mission of the organization is so strong that they want to do that, and they'll take less money in order to do that. And so sometimes those things change. We start out because we have family obligations. We start out worrying only about the extrinsic, and then eventually, when our needs are not as great, then the intrinsic. We have the luxury of being able to focus on the intrinsic. But at any rate, keep in mind that recruiters, or at least the Lou Adler method, the performance-based recruiting process, he doesn't even like to talk about money initially. He likes to say, well, let's talk about your career. This is a growth opportunity for your career. I see where you are here, and you get this job, you're going to have the opportunity to grow into this part of it's a great career move. And people say, yeah, but what about the money? So he really thinks that job seekers, as long as they possibly can, should think in terms of how is this going to position me for my career. Years ago, I read a book that had a big impact on me, and it was called Success Profiles. And it analyzed the career trajectory of a bunch of executives and where they made career choices that sent them in this direction or that direction, and how it ultimately either made them successful or took them down the rabbit hole, sort of, as in terms of their career. And one of them was a guy who said he took over. He was in corporate. He was working within the corporate sector, and there was an opportunity for him to take over a failing company, a subsidiary, I guess, that was overseas. And if it had gone badly, it could have ruined his career forever. But he thought, I'll be far enough away from corporate that I won't have them breathing down my neck and watching every single thing I do. And if I'm successful, if I can reinvent it, if I can make it be profitable, then I'm going to be like the new hero. And that's exactly what happened. And he did sort of a risk assessment and decided that it was worth the risk, went overseas, was very successful, and came back and bumped up back in corporate like three steps higher. On the other hand, I talked to one of our Launchpad members some years ago who had taken an overseas assignment for AMD. And by the time he came back, they said, we're going to close that down and bring you back into our domestic plant. He said there really wasn't a good fit for him back home. And his career never took off after that time. So you never know. Those things are always, there's a little bit of a risk involved. But at any rate, what's important to you? What is going to be driving your hiring decision? Is it going to be extrinsic or intrinsic? And one of the things that Lou Adler said he likes to ask during interviews is he likes to go over your resume in great detail. And by the way, I had promised Sean he would say this, and I forgot to let him have the microphone. But talking about LinkedIn again, he said he sees LinkedIn profiles that just have the job title and the company. And he says, I can't use those people. Your profile has got to be like your resume in that it tells me exactly these were my responsibilities, this is what I did, these were my challenges, these were my accomplishments. And you have to flesh out your LinkedIn profile so that a recruiter knows whether you're a fit for a job. So anyway, so Lou Adler likes to ask, looking through your career field, your career path, every single change you made in your career, why did you make those changes? What was your motivation in making those decisions? And did you accomplish your objective? I took that opportunity because I thought it would give me more global experience. I took that because the money was 3 times more than I had made at my previous job. Did you reach your objectives? Were you happy in that new position? Did your reason for doing that make enough sense? And if not, why not? And then he said, of course, most of the people that he works with as a recruiter are passive people, so that means that they're working. And so if he's talking to somebody who's working, that job has got to be really good in terms of career opportunity, or it's got to be a heck of a lot more money than they're making if they're, whether they're extrinsic or intrinsically motivated. So he tries to really sell them on, I'm looking at your career path and I'm seeing that this position would be an enormous opportunity for you. Where is it that you want to be within the next 5 years? Where would that be? Which one of these 2 jobs is going to get you there? The one you're there with, or is it going to be this one that I'm offering you? And so it's important for you to understand that yourself. Where do you want to be? A lot of us just kind of coast. We just bloom where we're planted, and we don't really care where we're planted. We have no plan. So I think it's a good idea to think about that. He also talks about it in terms of job descriptions. He jumps all over recruiters who do not know how to make a job description. And companies that say, I'll tell you, those SolarWind job descriptions, it just makes you want to close the book and go to a bar because they're so detailed. No one person could possibly qualify for those. There I think. Maybe it was just that one, but I'm telling you, it was not good. And so there is an example on LinkedIn of a job description that actually everybody would want, and the headline of it is Oscar-winning controller or director of accounting. And since I don't have my glasses, I'd be squinting this one up. And so it says, if you were to accelerate your, if you want to accelerate your career growth, you need to stop thinking about day one stuff. Instead, think year one and beyond. For example, take the search we're now working. It involves a small LA Valley-based entertainment company that's asked us to find them a finance and admin executive to help them become as big as their dreams. And you think about that. Accelerate your career growth as big as their dreams. They're trying to look for the intrinsic person, are they not? And they're planting all of those words to make that happen. Think beyond year one. Now that might be subtle language for we're not paying very much. But they're talking about, you want a dream job, this is it. And so it says, if you're interested, here's what year one is all about. For a CPA, this is the stuff of dreams, getting out of the numbers and making a difference. So they're tapping into that stuff. And then they say you'll be upgrading, here's your job duties, upgrade every single accounting process and procedure, including the entire reporting process. As part of this, make sure that the internal controls are as tight as a drum. So this is a very specific job duty. This is a process that you're going to have to be responsible for. Can you do it? Can you not? Take over and rebuild the administrative side of the company, including procurement, contracts, funding, and legal. You'll be working closely with the studio and production people, so you'll need to speak non-accounting. So you need this soft skill in order to carry out this job duty, but it's all performance-based. It's all, these are the skills we need for you to be able to do this part of the job. Rebuild the budgeting and planning process, including corporate reporting, and lead the preparation of the annual operating plan. Prepare a monthly analysis and reporting package that identifies what's really happening to the company. Cool charts and graphs would help. Basically, we need somebody with a CPA because there's a bunch of public reporting and tax issues involved. So if they're going to require something, they're going to tell you why they need it. Not just, you have to have this degree and this everything, and then it says, and an MBA would add a lot of credibility. But it's not necessary. So instead of saying, we need somebody with 10 years experience in this field, which is a qualification that may not really be necessary. Can you do this or can you not do this? We don't care how much experience you have. So the job description is performance-based, and it opens the door to all kinds of talented people who may not have X number of years experience. Yes, ma'am? Okay, suspicion is not a bad thing. I'm good with that. So anyway, and then it says, at the very end of this, it says, day one, money, benefits, people, company, but none of this matters unless year one and beyond make career sense to you. So it's good to ask about that. They said the money's pretty good, but if you don't really, if the career possibilities, the potential of this, if that's not important to you, if that doesn't make sense to you, then the rest of it doesn't matter. So they really want somebody who's in for the long haul.